Hey guys, Edgar here. Guns for everyone. Another attempt at doing one of my quote unquote short videos. Hopefully, I can accomplish it this time. And today's topic is concealed carry classes, and more specifically, why concealed carry classes are not real training. And I think we need to get back to that conversation. This conversation in reality that concealed carry classes are not. It's not training and before we really dig even deeper into that, right? Some of you guys are already pissed off that I'm even saying this, but training is when you're learning something new, right? When you are learning a new skill, when you show up to work, they are training you to do a specific job, and when you are practicing, you're developing that skill. So when I say that concealed carry classes are not training, that's what I'm talking about. That's the context in which I'm talking about. I'm not saying you're not there to learn ideas and principles, but there's a big difference between learning ideas and principles and concepts, which is what you get at a concealed carry classes, and actually learning a skill, training to learn a skill, and then developing a skill or what have you. And that's what I'm talking about, right? When you show up to a seminar style classes, we are speaking about concepts. We're speaking about principles. Isaac has a pretty good video speaking on what to look for in a concealed carry class, and he talks about the principles and the concepts. I don't want to spend too much time on that, but I think it's important for this video to kind of lay a foundation and so you guys understand what the fuck I'm talking about. In concealed carry classes, we challenge each other. We talk about an idea, we talk about a concept, we talk about why a modern day striker firearm is better. And when we give the opportunity for a student to say stuff, usually a student who's really married to their hammered gun is not going to say anything and go cry about it on Reddit and never say anything in class. A real student is going to question me in class and be like, "Why the fuck do you say that?" And then we can talk about it. We can discuss the points. And it's not a hey, don't use this particular tool. It just here's the science and here's the neuroscience behind a tactic or whatever, right? A movement. Again, this video, I don't want to talk about individual recommendations and shit like that. So I don't want this to go that way. I'm just giving examples. This standardized testing shit that just came about in the state of Colorado. I know some of you guys are probably watching in other states and are like, we've always had that. Well, this is something new to us here in Colorado. The government telling us what to teach, the government telling us what we need to learn, the government telling us how long a class needs to be. So now you take a concealed carry class, a seminar style class, and it's not training. It's good information. It's sharing of information. It's challenging information. It's creating a positive conflict around a information, but it's not training. And then you add the layer of the government getting involved to tell us what to do. Well, that makes it even less training. These are students that are now no longer motivated by their own circumstances or by their own responsibility to show up to the class, but motivated by punishment. I had a student who said this, and I had never really thought about it. Like it's one of those weird moments where like you know the concept, you've just never heard it. And I had a student who says like it's in every business in every industry, it seems like what they do is they use training as punishment, and training should not be used as punishment. It should be a positive thing, not a negative thing. And the government seems like they just want to punish us to exercise our Second Amendment right. Like if you want to exercise your Second Amendment right, you must pass through these hurdles. Now, conceptually, I think most of us agree we need training. Conceptually, we agree with that 100%. But when you have standardized testing and when you have a government telling us what the fuck to do, it never translates into the thing that they want it to translate to, which most of these people are just, I guess, trying to block us from obtaining the permit. So maybe in that sense, it does accomplish what the politicians wanted. But in real training in a self-defense situation, for me, somebody who carries a gun and is around humans who carry guns, I don't want the human who showed up to an 8-hour class, shot 50 rounds, and passed an 80% or passed a written test by 80%. I really don't want that person to be confident that they know how to shoot based off of that class. I want them to be confident that they know how to shoot in a self defense situation because they got good training in a live fire class, in a real live fire class. If we look at standardized testing, we can show. Let me go to this. This right here is NEA Today, the National Education Association. It has this whole article talking about standardized testing and how it's still failing our students. Now, some of you guys are probably already thinking like, but yeah, but that's for education. Education and testing and all of this shit, it's the same thing. There is no difference between students showing up to my classroom and students showing up to a middle school. The curriculum is different, but the way our brains absorb information and the way our attitudes are towards that education is basically the same. When it's on your own accord, when you want to show up because you want to show up, it's very different than when you are being forced to show up. Standardized testing, and this I talk about a lot with teachers who are in class, and every single one of them, I'm yet to have one that says, "Oh, I love standardized testing. It's so amazing." But they know this, right? Educators have long known that standardized tests are an inaccurate and an unfair measure of student progress. There's a better way to assess students. If you go down, this talks about basically the fail points of or the points of failure for standardized testing. Now, I use NEA Today because they're part of the blue team. Me personally, I'm not a blue team guy. I'm not a red team guy. I belong to no team, no political team. But NEA, National Education Association, is mostly associated with the blue team, and that's why I bring it up because even their own people, their own constituents, their own benefactors, the people who give them fucking money, those people are here highlighting how this shit doesn't work. They understand this shit doesn't work. Uh, Standardized testing measures students' learning in a single snapshot. I did a class where I was testing out to see how I would do the 50 rounds. And here, what I found out was I'm not going to do the fucking 50 round shit is garbage. That shit is absolute garbage because it doesn't give me enough time to really assess each individual student. It barely gets me to scratch the surface on what the fuck they're doing wrong. We're not there long enough to really dissect what is going on and really understand what the fuck is going on. So yeah, that whole snapshot, absolutely true with biased questions. When you have a government telling you what we need to teach, or what we as instructors need to teach, or what you need to learn, you better bet that there is a political bias as to what they want you to learn. Fortunately, here in the state of Colorado, they've given the instructors the ability to create the test, and but there's still a scoring. But they give us topics that we need to talk about. So when they give us those topics, it's you see the bias in what they want you to learn, and you see kind of the angle in which they want you to teach. And the other one, without determining learning growth, and that's again, it goes back to the first one. It's if I see you in class once and you're in a classroom setting, and I take you to the range and we shoot 50 rounds, like I don't get to measure a progress in any way, shape, or form. All I know is you tested well. All I know is that you passed, and that's fucking about it. I don't really get to see a progress. I don't see where you were at the beginning. I don't see where you were at the very end. All I know is that you passed a test. If I do an 8-hour class the way I want to do it, I get to see who's fucking up at the beginning, and I get to see how you're progressing as we go along. And then you, as a student, you get to ask for 8 hours, for 16 hours, for 32 hours, whatever. You get to ask the questions, the why questions, the very valuable comments and statements that come out of all that stuff. In an 8-hour class, it's basically people are just there like, I just want to check off this box. I'm just going to test well, and that's about it. And which brings me to my next point, right? There's this video here. It's a TED Talk from Stanford University. And this person is Linda Darling Hammond. I encourage you guys to go watch it. And just the description here alone, it says even Google has given up using standardized testing as a measure, as a means for evaluating who will be successful, who will make the best hire. American public schools, however, remain among the most standardized test heavy education systems in the world. Why are we still bubbling in? As Darling Hammond puts it, when top performing countries such as Singapore long ago realized there are better and more accurate ways to evaluate both students and their teachers. And this one is another interesting one that you might be interested in this video. Again, I don't give a shit about political teams, but again, this one's another person who's part of the blue team saying the same stuff: is standardized testing doesn't work, especially high stakes standardized testing. In this TED talk, I don't have the audio set up for this, so we're not going to listen to it. But in this TED talk, she brings up a teacher from Texas, and this teacher says, I have seen more students who can pass the test but cannot apply those skills to anything if it's not in the test format. As for higher quality teaching, I'm not sure I would call it that. And going back to what I was talking about is, if I do a class and I make you shoot 50 rounds, I see you pass a test, but can you really apply this in real life? And by the way, did I even give you enough that you can apply in real life? I made a video about why you shouldn't choreograph your training, and this is it, right? Like, when you choreograph your training, you can perform really well in a very specific, isolated case, but you can't really perform in real life situations. That's why choreographing isn't good. Standardized testing is basically choreographing your learning to fit a test and to fit a narrative. Shit doesn't work. This goes on, and it has other topics, but teachers say testing undermines good teaching, and it does. This I've been like, it's hurt me, because now we have to make sure in 8 hours of concealed carry classes that we talk about certain topics. We can do it, but not without taking times from real learning, from actual good learning. It's taking time away from that. That shit hurts my feelings. 45%, I think that was of the teachers who just refused to do it and end up quitting. But yeah, we need to get back to that conversation that standardized testing isn't good. And unfortunately, we have organizations in the gun community who maybe don't want the government to do it, but they themselves do it, and by proxy, the government does it because of them. There's certain organizations, two main ones that I can think about, that basically anybody can pass their instructor certification course. In fact, it is built almost so that people can pass their instructor certification courses, because now the more instructors you have, the more popular you become, because it's easy. Fuck, anybody can go to these two organizations and pass. And the way they test their students and their candidates is standardized tests. And, like, has to meet the same requirements. Everybody has to get the 90%, the 80%. Everybody has to pass the same shooting qualifications. So everybody's basically the exact fucking same. And by the way, if you fail, there is no failing. We'll make sure you're gonna fucking pass, because the more instructors they have, the more their membership grows, and the more they can sell you insurance, and the more they can sell you lobbying, or whatever these two organizations do. And then the government sees that, they're like, oh, these are really popular organizations, we should adopt what they're doing, because obviously they're popular. Just because it's popular doesn't mean it's good. um Remember the very popular girl in high school, it's usually because she was really easy. And that's why she was really fucking popular. It's not because it was tough to gain access to her love. It was because it was easy. And just because it's popular doesn't make it good. And I fear that the gun community has rallied around organizations and government learning and say, well, that's just what we do. The popular people are doing it, so it must be good, and we accept it, and we need to challenge that. Concealed carry classes are not training. If you're an instructor and you want to become an instructor, or you want to become an instructor, or you're about to attend an instructor development course, and you're in a classroom full of 10 people and 9 people pass, or all 10 people pass, I question that. I question how easy it is to pass and become an instructor with that organization. And are they pushing for standardized testing? Are they pushing, and even if it's not on purpose, right? Like maybe it's not their intent. Maybe like I didn't intend it to work out that way, but unintentionally, that's what's happening. We have to understand, like the governments are picking up on that. They're like, this is what this organization is doing, so we're going to do that too. Sometimes it works as a positive, sometimes many times it works as a negative. But bottom line is standardized testing. Concealed carry classes are not training. That's not real training. Get your asses to a real live fire training. And people will ask, well, how long of a class? Like, I don't know. Some of you guys need 8 hours. Some of you guys need 16 hours. Some of you guys need a week. Some of you guys need a whole fucking month. Everybody's going to be a little bit different. And that's why standardized testing doesn't work. This is why objective testing doesn't fucking work. It just simply does not work. I should be testing the 80-year-old lady on her progress against her own progress, not against the 30-year-old fucking tactidouche who's a certificate chaser, um, Mrs. Self-defense lady who's never shot a gun is going to perform differently than fucking Mr. Tactidouche, certificate chaser, clout chaser. I spend money on fucking night vision goggles, even though I'm afraid of the dark type shit. Like that person, they probably own a Toyota Tacoma. That person is the gear whore, the whatever, may be more athletic when they shoot their firearms, and they may have some decent knowledge about shooting firearms. A clean slate over here, lady, 70-year-old lady who's never shot a gun before, doesn't have any bad habits, but she still has less ability than the other guy. So like the way I'm testing them and the way I'm learning about them is significantly different. So that objectiveness doesn't fucking work out. We have to look at this subjectively. Each individual person has to be looked at differently. And the fails are going to be different. Like, not everybody's going to fail on the same fucking thing. I may have a different objective for Tactidouche, who's been to 17 other fucking classes. My objective with that human is significantly different than my objective with the other person. And that person probably knows it. And we might have a discussion about that. So this idea of I attended a concealed carry classes and a concealed carry class, and therefore I am better at self-defense. No, you might have gotten good information, but until you actually go and do the shooty stuff, you're not doing self-defense stuff. Everybody talks about how knowledge is power. That's that old cliche, knowledge is power. But the reality is that if you don't apply that knowledge, it's absolutely fucking worthless. I don't give a fuck how powerful you think it is. If you're not applying it, it's absolutely fucking worthless. So I know my brain kind of goes all over the place. I don't do a script or anything like that. Some of you guys probably think I should do a script, and I might do it in the future. But I just like to wing this shit, and hopefully it fucking made sense. And if it didn't, that's what the comment sections are for. Um, Isaac and I have talked about this before, but like if a conversation happens down below, like just make sure you try and understand where the fuck I'm coming from, because a lot of the times I just say shit, and we just need to understand that shit. So if you didn't understand a fucking thing I just said, ask me in the comments, and I'll try and answer that as best as I possibly can. Yeah, I appreciate you guys. Share the video, talk about, tell your friends about it. Concealed carry classes are not real fucking training.